Ang programang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng Equilibrium Probiotics. Ito ay ang bagong food supplement na gawa sa mga piling gulay at prutas at dumaan sa isang masusing proseso para mapangalagaan ang inyong kalusugan. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay dinisenyo para sa kalusugan ng ating tiyan, tulungan ang pagkuha ng sapat na nutrisyon at ang pagpapalabas sa ating sistema ng mga nakakasirang toxins. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may iba't ibang disenyo at sangkap base sa inyong pangangailangan. Mula sa boost para sa mga bata, fortitude, boost to brain, miracle fruit, perimicare, at ang pinakabago, liver boost. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may pagmamalaki na produktong gawa sa kanya. Ito ay mabibili sa Dashen, Geta Road sa Sebastian Phase 3, Binauganan, Tarlac City. At para sa mga malalayong lugar, mabibili din ang produkto ng Equilibrium Probiotics sa Lazada. Ito ay eksklusibong gawa ni Ginang Malu Reyes Nure. Ano pang hinihintay nyo, mga kasanggan? Hala, bilihan! MSB, Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Hatid sa inyo ni Kuya Dong.
Magandang umaga po mga kasangga. Ito naman po ang inyong Kuya Dong. Samahin lang po ko sa mahigit kalahating oras ng pagbabalita dito sa ating regular na programang MSB, Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Ang inyong daily dose of news na maghahatid po ng mga may init na balita sa loob at labas ng ating bansa. At bago po natin simulan ang ating pagbabalita, samahan niyo po muna ako sa isang maikling panalangin. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Mahal namin lumikha, maraming salamat po sa bagong araw na ipinagkaloob ninyo sa amin. Sa mapayapang gabing lumipas at sa patuloy na pagbuhos ng iyong mga biyaya sa amin at sa aming bayan. Naway ipagkaloob mo pa po sa amin ang lakas at tibay ng loob upang mapaglabanan ang kasamahan. At manatili po kami sa paggawa ng mabuti sa kapwa at sa pagsunod sa inyong itinurong tamang landas. Lahat po ng gawain namin ngayong araw na ito, inaari po namin sa ngalan ng iyong anak na si Jesus, na aming Panginoon. Amen. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak, Espiritu Santo. Amen. Here is a summary of our top stories for today. Sarah blames rallies for 2 million drop in enrollment. Supreme Court eyed to define confidential funds. Philippines now world's top rice importer according to United States Department of Agriculture. Rice price spike offers preview of climate food disruption. 33 peso minimum wage hike okayed in Central Visayas. LTFRB jeepney fare hike before year end. Northern Police District to use road rage driver's gun as evidence. And finally, in sports, Cone sees tough road in Asia. And our top stories is brought to us by Equilibrium Probiotics. Please scan the QR code to see its health benefits. Sarah blames rallies for 2 million drop in enrollment. A report by Diana Lead Suelto to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. Protest rallies are to be blamed for why the Department of Education was over 2 million short of its target enrollment for school year 2023-2024, according to Vice President and Deputy Secretary Sara Duterte, who slammed ACT Teachers Party List Rep. Franz Castro for taking the drop in the figure against her. And then Franz Castro would say, look, the DepEd is short of 2 million in enrollment, asking Daisara where the enrollment is. Duterte said in Filipino in her keynote speech during the opening of a 3-day Peace Village exhibit at SM City Davao last Monday. The Vice President stressed that the lawmaker should not be asking her that question as she did not kidnap those kids. She's looking for those 2 million students from me as if I kidnap all of them and I don't want them to study, Duterte said. Take note, I am not the one who has the kidnapping case. I am not the one who has a human trafficking case, Duterte said, alluding to the cases filed against Castro, former Bayan Muna Representative Saturo Campo, and 16 other individuals who, during a national solidarity mission, transported 14 minors on November 28, 2018 from Talaingod, Davao del Norte to rescue them from harassment by the paramilitary group Alamara and the military. The parents of the minors who were students of the Salupongan Community Learning Center, a school for Lumans that the military accused of being a communist front, had denied that their children were kidnapped by the National Solidarity Mission, according to a report by Minda News. Di naman pala na-kidnap eh. Para marites lang. Franz Castro plucked the children from Talengod to bring them to Manila and hold the rally, Duterte said. The Vice President shrugged off the lawmaker's attack as a futile attempt to prevent the discovery of her connection with the New People's Army. We should expose the lies employed by the terrorists to survive, Duterte said. She added that intentionally misrepresenting the letter of the law surrounding her department's confidential fund is what Castro is doing. Yun naman pala eh, confidential fund na naman. They said, do not read anymore those three words here. Anong three words yun? Paki-explain. Just listen to our interpretation. That's what Franz Castro and the Makabayan bloc are doing because they know that we are using the money to trace their connection to the NPA, Duterte said, without specifying and expounding on what those three words were. Anong three words yun? The Vice President also challenged her critics to provide concrete evidence that she did not something wrong. They keep attacking. They keep attacking. Give me something concrete that I did something wrong, but that there's nothing, she said. Meron din, maghintay ka lang. But they go on their attacks in the hopes that the lie will take root in the minds of the people. That's what they're doing, she added. Duterte thanked those who have spoken on her behalf and defended her, but at the same time advised them to stop. Really? We've already released a statement. We've already thanked those who spoke out, but privately. We've been telling them to stop speaking out because there's no use defending an attack meant to run repeatedly until in the end, the lie becomes the truth in the minds of the people. Di ba yun ang ginawa nung bago mag-eleksyon? Nagkalat ng mga fake news paulit-ulit. The Vice President is waiting for her critics to file a case against her, but none has been filed yet. Meron na, malapit na. Every day, I am asked, have they given a paper? Have they filed a case? Has there been anything to really show that the office of the Vice President has done something wrong? There's none, she said. Meanwhile, providing communities with increased access to government services will make communist rebels less tempted to engage them, according to Duterte, co-vice chair of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict. In the same keynote speech, she said the government needs to allow communities increased access to education, economic opportunities, healthcare, and other government initiatives. A government that genuinely serves the people will not suffer the doom of being betrayed by its people, she added. Stressing that the good governance is vital to achieving peace in the country, the Vice President also cited the impact of Davao City's Peace 911, which helped the city become insurgency-free. When the NPAs were lording over Pakibato, Kalinan, and Marilog, peace and development were something to be desired. The only things constant in the lives of people under the shadow of NPAs were misery, fear, and complete desolation, she said, with additional reports from Neil Jason Cervallos. Good morning po kay Minerva Somera Pedroso. Thanks for joining me this morning. At sa mga TikTok viewers po natin, maraming salamat po. Moving on to our next top story. SCI to define confidential funds. Report by Delon Porcalia to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. The Supreme Court may be asked to clearly define confidential funds. Former party list Congressman Nery Colmenares suggested bringing before the High Tribunal questions on how public officials use their confidential funds. This is a matter that needs to be brought to the SC for clarification and resolution once the budget becomes a law, Colmenares said. His colleagues in the House Makabayan bloc were the first to question the confidential funds that were turned over from the Office of the President to to the office of the Vice President Sara Duterte in 2022. Colmenares colleagues in the Progressive Bloc are Reps Franz Castro of ACT Teachers, Arlene Brosas of Women's Group Gabriela, and Raul Manuel of Kabataan Party List, or opposition legislators in the chamber. Commission on Audit Chairman Gamaliel Cordova told the House Appropriations Committee that the OVP has submitted its compliance and liquidation reports regarding the confidential funds. Explain or return. The Makabayan bloc said that if Duterte could not explain the 125 million in confidential funds that were transferred to the OVP from the OP, she should return the money to the Treasury, since the Vice President was not entitled to confidential funds in 2022. She should disclose how she spent every centavo of the 125 million pesos in 19 days. The public has the right to know, Castro said. She also urged the COA to revisit its 2022 audit on the OBP, specifically the transfer and the use of the confidential fund. At the very minimum, we expect that it will issue a disallowance in order the VP to return the 125 million to the public offer, she said. She must return the people's money. We will remain steadfast in holding the highest officials accountable for their use and misuse of public funds. This is an extravagant use of taxpayers' money for an agency whose mandate has no direct involvement in national security, intelligence gathering, or law enforcement, Castro said, noting that OVP was not entitled to confidential fund in 2022. She repeatedly stressed the fact that Duterte spent 125 million peso in 19 days. DBM and OVP records show that she received the confidential funds on December 13 and reported it fully disbursed on December 31st, 2022, Castro said. Meanwhile, after 4 weeks of continuous hearings, the House Appropriations Committee will finally finish scrutinizing budget allocations of all government agencies this week and is ready to start plenary deliberations on September 19. Speaker Martin Romualdez and panel chair Rep. Zaldico will most likely be able to keep their promise of finishing the briefings in 5 weeks as Congress, which includes the Senate, is set to adjourn on September 13. We have taken significant strides toward finalizing the 2024 budget, which promises to be a landmark budget focused on national growth and the welfare of the Filipino people, Ross said. The committee will put its nose to the grindstone so that the House will be able to approve the budget on third reading before Congress adjourns on September 30, he said. Go represents ACO Bicol Party List and is president of the 54-member Party List Coalition Foundation Incorporated. Marikina Rep. Stella Ruiz Kimbo, Senior Vice Chair of Appropriations, told journalists that the panel is on target and on time. Romualdez vowed to reciprocate the early submission of the Department of Budget and Management of the 2024 spending bill, making sure that every centavo of the proposed 5,768,000 trillion budget will be judiciously spent. The House needs to closely examine the budget proposals of every department and agency as well as analyze every program, activity, and project to ensure that the resources are allocated and optimized on the right priorities, according to the Speaker. Philippines now top rice importer according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Report by Danessa Rivera to the Philippine Star. Good morning, Michelle Tayak. Thanks for joining me this morning. Manila, Philippines. The Philippines has overtaken China as the world's top importer of rice, according to the United States Department of Agriculture. In its latest Grain World Markets and Trade report, the USDA projected that the Philippine rice importation will reach 3.8 million metric tons in marketing year 2023-2024, while China's imports will drop to 3.5 million metric tons. Farmers Group Federation of Free Farmers agreed with the USDA's forecast. I can see the need for a large volume of imports next year, probably in the range of the USDA forecast, because domestic supply is not catching up with the demand. More imports are needed next year to offset the decline in imports in the third quarter of this year. FFF National Manager Raul Montemayor said when sought for comment. In the same report, the USDA said the Philippines is holding off its rice importation this year due to skyrocketing rice prices resulting from India and Vietnam's rice export ban. In 2008, the Philippines continuously bought larger volumes as prices escalated. This year, it is delaying purchases, awaiting lower prices. In the past week, prices started to decline from their peaks, the USDA said. Global rice prices have reached their highest in 15 years after the latest export ban policy of India, the report noted. India, which supplies around 40% of the global rice trade, banned the export of non-basmati white rice in July, leading to higher global prices and tighter global supply. Top rice exporter India has sent shockwaves through the global rice market since July export ban on milled white rice and subsequent August export tax on parboiled rice and minimum export price for basmati. Global importers have shifted to next largest suppliers, Thailand and Vietnam, sending their export quotes surging to the highest levels since 2008, the USDA added. Thailand and Vietnam are the top two sources of imported rice in the Philippines in 2023. Based on the Bureau of Plant Industry September 7 data, rice imports have already reached 2.33 million metric tons, with 4.46% sourced from Thailand and 89.85% from Vietnam. No to Balisakan at DA. Good morning kay Brother Ramon Berenger, our president for PWD in Barangay Maligaya. Maraming salamat, Brad. At si Ronnie Gonzalez is also watching. Bro, good morning. Thanks for joining me. At thanks, Admin Sol, for supporting me this early. Farmers groups yesterday opposed the possible appointment of Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Arsenio Balisacan as chief of the Department of Agriculture. Balisacan has doused speculation that he is being tapped to replace President Marcos as DA Secretary. Has long been an advocate of unlimited imports, tariff cuts, easing of subsidies that will lead to the demise of the Filipino farmers. He has never sided with local producers. Case in point, he is one of the proponents of the reduction of rice tariff. Samahan Industriya ng Agrikultura Executive Director Jason Kainglet told the Star, Marcos should appoint a pro-farmer, not market-oriented and pro-liberalization like Balisacan, Montemayor said. Balisacan thinks like Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno. They always resort to importation, he noted. Reduce tariffs. The Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, or FFCCC, II, supports the proposal to temporarily reduce tariffs on rice imports. On September 7, the Federation of Economic Freedom filed a petition to temporarily reduce the imported rice tariffs from 35% to between 0 and 10%. This proposal was endorsed by the Department of Finance and the National Economic and Development Authority. Kakasabi pa lang kanina, no? We believe that the temporary lowering of tariff coupled with other calibrated measures to be taken by this administration's economic team will result in the long-term stabilization of prices of rice and improve the inflation situation. FFCCCII President Cecilio Pedro said in a statement. Earlier this week, the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry also expressed support for the removal of import duties for rice. Patayin na lang kaya mga magsasaka, no? Since we're short of rice when we import, we hope there won't be tax, so you lower down the cost of rice, said PCCI President George Barcelon, with additional reports from Bella Carriazo and Catherine Talavera. Kakareklamo pa lang kanina na pinapatay nyo yung magsasaka kasi binibigyan nyo ng prioridad yung imported rice. Ngayon, ipupus pa nyo yung pagtanggal ng taripa. Naku, gusto ko, ewan ko. Hindi na kayo naawa sa mga magsasaka natin. Moving on to our global updates. Rice price spike offers preview of climate food disruption. Report by Sarah Hossein from the Agence France Press to the Philippine Star. Bangkok, Thailand. A 15-year high in rice prices prompted by top exporter India's restrictions on overseas sales should be a wake-up call on how climate change can disrupt food supplies, experts say. Rice prices jumped 9.8% in August, bucking decreases in other staples, the Food and Agriculture Organization said last week. That followed the July decision by India, which accounts for 40% of global rice exports, to ban the overseas sale of non-basmati rice. The government cited soaring domestic prices for the staple caused by geopolitics, the El Nino weather pattern, and extreme climatic conditions. This year is expected to be the hottest in human history, and the impacts of the seasonal El Nino weather pattern could make conditions even harsher. Despite severe flooding in parts of northern India, this August was the country's hottest, driest on record. The monsoon season that brings up to 80% of the country's annual rain has been far below normal levels. India's July restrictions followed the decision last September to ban exports of another variety of rice that is a staple in parts of Africa. Up to 8% of global rice exports for 2023-2024 will now be taken out of the market, according to analysts by BMI, which Group's research on. Drought fears. For now, the crisis offers an opportunity for India's rivals, including number 2 and 3 exporters, Thailand and Vietnam. Both have increased exports this year, with Nguyen Nhu Cuong, an official with Vietnam's Agriculture and Rural Development Ministry, touting a bumper crop and plans to increase planting. But the dry conditions that tend to accompany El Nino mean smooth sailing ahead is unlikely, warned Alisa Kaur Luder from the IC's use of Ishak Institute's Climate Change in Southeast Asia program. My question is whether they can continue to do this once El Nino comes into force towards the end of this year, when water becomes more scarce, she told the AFP. I think the end of this year and especially the beginning of next year will be very, very tough, she added. A naturally occurring weather phenomenon, El Nino typically lasts 9 to 12 months and is expected to strengthen late this year. Even before India's latest restrictions, its effects were both boosting rice export prices, according to BMI. And in Thailand, national rainfall levels are currently 18% lower than expected for the time of year, the Office of National Water Resources said this month. Late rains could still make up the difference, but the agency said it's concerned about drought caused by El Nino. New normal. The consequence is one of price rather than supply, said Charles Hart, agricultural commodities analyst at Fitch Solutions. This is not a running out of price moment, he stressed, noting India's restrictions have not been followed by other exporters. Instead, the situation is likely to force the drawdown of stocks rebuilt after pandemic-era depletions and prompt importers to seek new deals and impose local limits. Top importer, the Philippines, this month signed a deal with Vietnam to help stabilize supply, this after announcing a national price cap. For some, though, unaffordable prices amount to the same as lack of supply, less food. It is not just food availability issue, but it's also a social stability issue. It's a political issue, said Luther. The current disruptions should be a wake-up call for policymakers, she added, with more attention needed to the plight of farmers across various sectors. Climate change can affect productivity with lower crop yields as temperatures rise, but also increases the likelihood of extreme events like the 2022 Pakistan floods. Global grain export markets are relatively concentrated, so the kind of extreme weather risk accumulates in a few markets, Hart added. In India, policymakers need to develop better early warning system and new planting patterns, said Vantika Goswami, a climate change researcher at the Center for Science and Development and Environment. Erratic weather patterns are the new normal, she told the AFP. So it's a case of early adaptation. In the long term, global emissions have come down. Moving on to our regional top stories. Good news for our kasangga sa Central Visayas. 33 peso minimum wage hike okay in Central Visayas. Report by Gea Katrina Cabico to the Philstar.com. Manila, Philippines. The Central Visayas Wage Board has approved a 33 peso increase in the daily minimum wage for workers in private establishments, the Department of Labor and Employment announced Wednesday. It provides an increase of 33 pesos, bringing the daily minimum wages in Class A to C areas to a range of 420 pesos to 468 pesos for non-agriculture establishments and 415 to to 458 pesos for agriculture and non-agriculture establishments with less than 10 workers, Dole said in a release. Class A areas cover the cities of Karkar, Cebu, Danao, Lapu-Lapu, Mandaue, Naga, Talisay, and the municipalities of Compostela, Consolacion, Cordova, Liloan, Minglanilla, and San Fernando. Class B areas include the cities of Mais, Bayawan, Bagbogo, Canlaon, Dumaguete, Gilhulgan, Tagbilaran, Tanghai, and Toledo. Meanwhile, Class C areas cover municipalities not covered under Class A. Dole said the recently approved rates represent a 7.6% to 8.6% decrease from the existing daily minimum wage rates in Central Visayas. It added that the adjustment in wages will lead to 23% increase in benefits covering the 13-month pay, service incentive leave, and social security benefits such as Social Security System, Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, and Pag-ibig. Around 346,946 minimum wage earners in Central Visayas are expected to directly benefit from the wage order. Nearly 400,000 full-time wage and salary workers earning more than the minimum wage could also indirectly benefit from the salary adjustments. The order on wage hike will be published on Friday and will take effect 15 days or on December or on October 1. So October 1 na po. At sa mga kasangga natin sa Central Visayas, meron silang maagang pamasko. Moving on to our next regional update. LTFRB, jeepney fare hike before year-end. Good news para sa mga pumapasada, bad news para sa riding public. Report by Romina Cabrera to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. A provisional increase in jeepney fares will be implemented before the end of the year and weeks of continuous oil price hikes. Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board Chair Teophilo Guadis said yesterday. The board has yet to determine the amount of the fare increase but hopes to implement it by November, Guadis added. He said the board would still need to coordinate with the National Economic and Development Authority to determine the amount, as any fare increase will have an impact on the economy. We have to consult NEDA. Is it 1 peso? Is it 50 centavos? But definitely there will be a provisional increase. The issue now is how much and when, he said in an interview. The next hearing for the fare hike petition is scheduled for September 26. Different transport groups are seeking between 2 peso and 4 peso increase in the minimum fare of jeepneys. Meanwhile, the LTFRB said that the fund for around 50,000 beneficiaries of the fuel subsidy program was credited yesterday to the Land Bank of the Philippines for distribution. Yesterday was the start of the distribution of the 3 billion peso fuel subsidy for public utility vehicle operators. Gadis appealed for understanding after receiving reports that the fuel subsidy failed to load in the cash cards of public utility vehicle operators. The LTFRB said it is coordinating with Land Bank to expedite the release of the assistance to public utility vehicle operators. Around 1.36 million PUV operators are set to benefit from the fuel subsidy. Ito na po yung ating welfare state. So lahat na lang po asa ngayon sa ating gobyerno dahil sa hirap ng buhay. Moving on. Ito po yung update dun sa nangyari sa Valenzuela. Valenzuela City. Nasundan po natin ang gusto kong pangyayari. Northern Police District to use road rage driver's gun as evidence. Report by Emmanuel Tupas to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. The handgun used by road rage suspect Marlon Malabute against a taxi driver during a traffic altercation in Valenzuela City last month is now in the custody of the police and will be used as evidence against him. Brigadier General Rizalito Gapas, Northern Police District Director, said the businessman's 9mm pistol was turned over to the Valenzuela police and will be used as evidence against Malabute, who is facing criminal complaints for grave threat and alarm and scandal. Malabute on Tuesday surrendered before Mayor Wesley Gatchalian and the city police more than a week after a video of his confrontation with taxi driver Henry Ong surfaced on social media platforms. The Police Firearms and Explosives Office had earlier revoked Malabute's gun license due to the incident. Malabute drew his handgun at Ong during a dispute along a road in Barangay Punturin last August 19. Malabute was driving a Toyota Fortuner Sport Utility Vehicle, plans to submit a counter affidavit to prove his innocence. Kita-kita nga sa itong kolokoy na to, nakita na nga sa video innocent pa raw. He refused to apologize for his actions, ang kapal ng mukha. This Earth Gatchalian, who said the incident put Valenzuela in a bad light. Tama yan, demanda nyo na lang at makulong na dapat yung mga hinayok na ganyan. Kapal ng mukha. Mga feeling entitled ng mga damuho. Ano to? Kasi ito po yung sinasabi natin na we somehow yung ating bansa ngayon is experiencing a culture of impunity. Alam niyo po yung impunity, ibig sabihin nun, walang pananagutan sa mga maling ginagawa. So kahit anong kalokohan ang gawin mo, wala kang pananagutan. Yun po yung nangyayari ngayon, no? So, pag yan po ay magpapatuloy, itong kulturang ito ay magpapatuloy sa bansa natin, we will fall into chaos. No? Ibig sabihin po, yung mga kriminal ay mas darami. Ibig sabihin po noon, yung magnanakaw, yung mandarambong, yung lahat man, yung mga mamamatay tao, gagawin nila yung gusto nilang gawin. Kasi, hindi naman sila pananagutan ng batas, pananagutin ng batas. No? Nakakalungkot. Anyway, moving on to sports. Kung si Stop Road in Asia, report by Olmin Leyba to the Philippine Star. Namong problema si Coach Tim Kong. Bahrain, Thailand, Jordan up ahead for Gilas, Manila, Philippines. Even though it outranks Bahrain and Thailand in the totem pole and finished higher than Jordan in the last FIBA World Cup, Gilas Pilipinas is under no illusion. The coming Asian Games will be easy. We know we have a tough road ahead of us, Gilas interim coach Tim Kong said of what's up ahead in the September 23 to October 8 Asia in Hangzhou, China. Kong's troops will face Bahrain, a Middle East side sitting 44 places lower in the FIBA World Rankings. In the Group C opener, the 94th ranked Thais, the Philippines' regular prey in the Southeast Asian Games, are next before the Filipinos, who ranked number 23 in the World Cup. Battle Jordan, a squad that wound up 32nd and last in the global meet. We don't know much about Bahrain, but we're trying to figure it out. We know Thailand from the SEA Games, and they've gotten better and better with their naturalized players and Thai Americans. Their programs really growing up leaps and bounds, so we know they're going to be tough, said Kong. As for Jordan, the Middle Eastern squad is top built by TNT's Ronde Hills Hollis Jefferson, a skilled man responsible for taking the PP Governor's Cup away from Tone and Gila's counterpart, Justin Brownlee. Justin already has the experience of playing rondine, so we know how tough he is, and he played really, really well in the World Cup. He was amazing, said Cone of RHJ. If Gilas does not, if Gilas does get past group stages, a potential showdown with Japan and Korea looms. The Japanese reportedly has a team for the Asian Games separate from the side that took the highest World Cup Asian honors. The Koreans, meanwhile, have been preparing solely for the Asian Games since they weren't in the global hoop fest. Then there's host China, which should be rearing to give Gilas a home beatdown in the mold of the latter's 96-75 blowout in the World Cup. If we win a seat in the next stage, we'll probably cross over with either Japan or Korea. So that's not going to be easy either. And China will be there somewhere along the line, said Gong. We haven't spent too much time thinking about it, opposition. They're not right in front of us yet. Right now, we're trying to do the day-to-day, trying to get ourselves prepared. But we know we've got tough road, and we have to figure out a way to play Ronde, he added. So that completes our headlines for today, September 14, 2023, Thursday. And here again is a summary of our headlines for today. Sarah blames rallies for 2 million drop in enrollment. Supreme Court eyed to define confidential funds. Philippines now world's top rice importer according to U.S. Department of Agriculture. Rice price spike offers preview of climate food disruption. 33 pesos minimum wage hike okay in Central Visayas. LTFRB jeepney fare hike before year end. Northern Police District to use road rage driver's gun as evidence. Finally, sports. Cone sees tough road in Asia. Time check, it's 6:36. Maraming salamat po sa lahat po ng umantabay sa akin ngayong umaga. Kila Minerva Somera Pedroso, kila Richel Tayet, kay Brother Ramon Berenguer, kay Admin Sol, at kay Papsi, kay Rolly Gonzalez. Maraming salamat po. At siyempre po sa ating mga TikTok viewers, kay Tin Salvador, thanks for tuning in. At sa lahat po ng dumaan kanina at nanood ng sandali, maraming salamat po. At sa ating mga TikTok viewers. At bukas po ulit, samahan niyo po ako sa ating regular na programa ng MSB, Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Ito po ang inyong Kuya Long na nagpapaalam. Pero bago lahat po, meron po tayong programa mamayang gabi. Ito po ay para sa ating Samahan ADMA. Ito po yung Association of Marrying of Christians. Tarlac chapter po ang maging sponsor nito. At kasama ko po mamayang gabi si Father Ian Rosal ng Salesians of Don Bosco, isa po sa mga pasisipag po nating Salesiano ng Don Bosco dito sa ating lungsod ng Tarlac. At abangan niyo po kami mamayang gabi, alas 7:30 ng gabi. Ang Dream at 9 po ni St. John Bosco. Yun po yung aming paksa mamayang gabi. Samahan niyo po kaming dalawa ni Father Ian Rosal. Mamayang gabi na po yun. Okay. At sana po yung ating mga kasamahan sa national level, mas masamahan po nila tayo mamayang gabi. Maraming salamat po. Magandang umaga and God bless everyone.